Here we are. Another day the Lord has made. I think I'm going to stick with that line. So I've been talking about the wilderness because there's a wilderness in front of us. If you look at Revelation 12, talks about the woman, which is God's people, flees into the wilderness where God has prepared a place for her. Revelation 12:6. For 1,203 score days, that's 3.5 years on a lunar calendar. So we have this in front of us, this wilderness period. And so I've been sharing a lot about this. I've been sharing how I feel the Lord has shown me that this wilderness is a time when we're not going to be able to buy and sell with Egypt. Egypt represents the world, and Ecclesiastes 1:9 says that the things that have been are the things that shall be, and we can see the beast in Moses' day, which was Pharaoh's army, drove them into the wilderness where they couldn't buy and sell with Egypt anymore. So that's a type of the shadow for us. And the Lord takes us individually through the wilderness. He brings us wilderness experiences to equip us to walk by faith for what's coming. And so I want to share another story. I mean, it's really a very good one. It's a recent one that Nan and I, an experience we went through where the Lord took us through a little mini wilderness, and it was kind of tough. So I want to share this story because I think it'll encourage people and it will help them get a snapshot of what they may be experiencing, and to encourage them that we can walk by faith. So Nan and I have a cleaning business. We're getting old, we're tired of cleaning, and so we're like, well, let's start a real estate business, be realtors and flip houses. Okay. So we saved for a number of years, and then we were thinking, well, let's maybe get a house, we'll live the flip, and our lease was coming up on our apartment. We lived in Perico Apartments for 7 years. Okay, like we got to get out of this place and quit throwing our money out the window. So we saved, and so we decided, okay, we're gonna put in our notice. When you put in your notice, that's kind of like the time clock starts clicking. We were looking for houses. Nan had become a realtor at this point, and if you put in your notice in this place and you don't leave, they charge you like $400 or $500 extra a month in this place. So we were like, the time clock was ticking. We put in our notice. We have 60 days. All right. So we're looking for a house like crazy. I mean, we got all this activity. We're on auction sites. We're bidding on houses. I mean, we were looking at hovels because we were going to fix it up. And so the Lord speaks to me. He tells me, quit looking for a house. I was thinking, uh-oh. I kind of had an idea where this was going. So I told Nan, I'm like, hey, the Lord is telling me very clearly that we need to quit looking for a house. Well, let me just say, where a woman lives is very important to her, okay? But you know what? Nan is so awesome. Like, if I say I'm hearing from the Lord and this is what he's telling us to do, she gets right behind me, okay, which is really awesome. So we quit looking for a house. So my God, we got down to after we get down to a month before we're supposed to leave, I mean, the devil shows up and he wants to sow doubt. That's what the devil does. That's his job. And now I don't have time to get a loan. It takes 45 days to get a loan and to close on it. So the devil's saying, well, what are you going to do now? You don't have time to get a loan. Well, it's like we're going to walk by faith and trust the Lord, And then the devil's telling Nan, has God really said? That's what the devil told Eve in the garden, which is really funny. And so we get down 3 weeks, so we have all these friends. We've lived in this place for years. We have all these people that we've been ministering to and telling them about the Lord. And we told everybody, the Lord told us to quit looking for a house. And they're like, what? Okay. We're like, we get down like 3 weeks where they're like, well, where are you going? We're like, well, we don't know. The Lord hasn't told us yet. So since I didn't know where I was going, I had like 2.5 garages full of stuff. Okay, and so I'm renting storage units. I start packing everything we own into these storage units because I don't know where we're going. And I used to work at Roadway and pack trucks, so I'm packing these storage units floor to ceiling because it's cheaper if you fill them up all the way. So we get down, we're like a couple weeks away, and we don't know where we're gonna live, and so that's a little bit of a trial. And I'm packing all my stuff up in these storage units, and there's a scripture that says, with prayer and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So Nan and I, we made a little list. We're like, well, Lord, here's what we want. Okay, it says you have not because you ask not, and other scriptures. So we're thanking the Lord, and we made a little list, Lord, where, we'd like to have a place that's close to the island, that's a safe neighborhood. We'd like to have a place that we can add value to. And so we had our little list, and we would hold hands and pray and tell the Lord what we were looking for. And it was funny, we would be like, we're not greedy, but a hot tub and a pool would be nice too. As long as we're asking. So we get down, we're like a week, and we don't know where we're gonna live. So man, I'm calling movers at this point. Get all this heavy stuff out of here. We saw somebody, a friend of ours, they had movers, and the moving truck's there, and so we asked our friend, well, how are the movers? And they said, real good. So we wrote down the number, we called these movers. We arranged for movers to come and get all the heavy stuff out because we're on the second story. And the movers are like, well, where are you moving to? And we're like, well, we're not sure, we don't know. Okay. We're moving to a storage unit. So these movers show up, okay? And I had saved a place for the truck. I'm looking out, I don't see any truck. These guys show up, and they're like, I'm like, well, where's the truck? They're like, what truck? They're like, we're a labor-only company. We're like, what? They didn't tell us? So I ended up going to the storage unit. I was able to get a truck right on the spot. And so we moved all the heavy stuff. So then we get down 3 days, 2 days. I don't know where we're going to live, And Nan and I had such peace. I have to emphasize that, And this isn't our first rodeo. We're walking by faith. We know the Lord shows up at the last minute. That's how he tries us. The wilderness is a place where you have to depend on the promises of God. Jesus said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. All right? The children of Israel had their back up against the Red Sea. It's an impossible situation the Lord takes us to. And that's what he was doing to us. He was taking us right up to the Red Sea. Okay? And I had laughed early when this whole process started. I was like, the Lord always shows up at the last minute. It was kind of a joke, but when we got down to like a day or two, everything was fine, but you know what? Everything started going wrong. There's a scripture that says when the enemy talks about the enemy coming in like a flood. So we get down to the last day, and everything started going wrong. My truck broke down, and the key broke on my motorcycle. I'm putting gas in it, and I try to it's got a key lock on the gas tank, and it breaks, and I'm afraid I'm going to run out of gas in my motorcycle. And we had painted these accent walls for Nan in this apartment, and the management company said, oh, well, pay $100 and pay $100 extra, and it's not going to be a problem. Well, it had changed hands multiple times. So we got down to the last day. I had to paint all these accent walls, 2 coats on the very last day. And everything just started going wrong. And the devil came in, and so I'm telling the Lord, well, my lease is up. I got to find out by midnight where I'm living. Otherwise, you didn't show up. I'm like calling the Lord out. All right. Midnight, my lease is up. we got to have everything out by 8 o'clock in the morning, the last final things, before the office shows up. So my God, I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning. We were fighting and everything. We got mad, and I was yelling and cursing. My God, I was so stressed out, I dropped F-bombs. I was like, here we were fine until the last day. And then everything comes unglued. I'm just being real. I'm painting till like 2 o'clock in the morning, all these accent walls, up and down the stairs, hauling all this last minute stuff out. So midnight comes and goes. So I get up at like 5 in the morning, 3 hours of sleep. I got to go clean some post offices and then come back and get the last minute stuff out. So I'm having a come to Jesus meeting. I'm driving, I'm exhausted, worn out. God never showed up. And so then I'm like telling the Lord, it's like, you didn't show up. What am I going to do? And so the Lord starts, like, he's tapping me on the shoulder, and he starts talking about, remember what Steve told you? Okay, well, I had a neighbor that had a garage at the bottom of my stairs, and he was like, well, where are you moving to? And so I told him the whole story, how, the Lord wants us to trust him. He's going to show us where we're moving to. And he's like, oh, wow. He says, well, why don't you move into Laura's house? This was a friend of ours that had rehabbed a house, bought another house, and then she was like flipping the house, and she's paying 2 house payments, and the house is going up for sale. And he said, you could move into her house and rent from her. And I'm thinking, I don't want to rent somebody's house. I want my own house. So when he told me that, I didn't really think that was God's option for me. So then the Lord's tapping, he's like, remember what Steve told you about Laura's house? And so I come home from cleaning, I tell Nana, I said, call Laura. So this Laura's like, oh, that would be great. You can move in. Oh, we'll only charge you $800 a month, no security deposit. I mean, this is like a miracle. This is beautiful rehabbed house, like a 3-2, just off the island. Beautiful house. You can't get this house for $800 anywhere, okay? Much less no security deposit. So we're like, great. We move into this house. She goes out front, she plants a for sale sign. We're moving our stuff in. Most of our stuff's all in the storage unit. And now meanwhile, Nan had looked at this house that we're living in before the Lord told me to quit looking. Okay? And so now we're like, we got to figure out what to do. And she's asking me, well, can I go look at that one house that I already looked at? And I said, yes. I'm thinking, any house is a good house, okay, at this point. But we're trying to just be obedient to the Lord. So this Laura plants a sign out in front of her house for sale. Immediately somebody's like, they want to look at the house. Now this is on a Saturday we're moving in, and so they want to come on Sunday, and so Laura calls us up. And so we're like, can you give us till Monday? So we clean her house and I clean all the windows inside and out. Nan's a realtor. We set this house up. She's got candles going, and for these people to come look at the house. And the people look at the house and they're like, yeah, we want to pay cash and move in immediately. So they wanted to move in like 8 days. So here we just moved into this house, and now we're losing it in 8 days. So at this point, I'm like, I'm just along for the ride, Lord. I'm not even really worried, but the 8 days almost comes and goes, and I'm thinking, all right, Lord, I only have a few days left. Where am I going? So we ended up in a $1 million house on Anna Maria Island, right on the water with this whole wall of glass. Overlooking the water, just gorgeous beach house. We call it Betty's Beach House. All right. So we get a beach house on Anna Maria Island sitting right on the water to live in for like 5 weeks. All right. She ended up charging me $100 a week. I mean, this is a house like this on Anna Maria Island costs thousands of dollars a week, and so we ended up bidding on the house that we're in, and they accepted our bid, and so that started the 45 days, and so we were in Betty's beach house while this time clock clicked, and we closed on this house 3 days before our friend was due to come back to her house. And so this was kind of a difficult situation. This was kind of like a wilderness experience. All right. And there's a scripture in Deuteronomy. It's Deuteronomy 8:2. And Moses is speaking to the children of Israel, and he said, "Thou shalt remember all the way the Lord thy God led thee 40 years through the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what is in thine heart, whether thou would keep my commandments or no." So this encapsulates, this has got everything. God leads us out in the wilderness to try us. That word "prove" is nasa in the Hebrew, and it means to test. So God brings these wilderness experiences to test us, to prove us, to humble us, to show us what's really in our heart, because we think our faith is up here, but it might be down here. But when the test and the trial comes, we really find out what we got. Okay, are you really going to listen to God irregardless of the circumstances and what you see? Because the days are coming when you're going to have to walk by faith, and it's going to be a difficult trial. If you can't buy or sell with Egypt, and you got to trust God for everything like the children of Israel did, I'm telling you, that is coming in our future. And so you got to have faith, and so God is in the process of building our faith now. And so this was an experience that Nan and I went through, and it was funny. All our friends in Perico, they were looking at the house that we were in on at Betty's beach house, and they were coming over and they were looking, and they saw how the Lord miraculously preserved us through this difficult. We got down to the last day and didn't know where we were going to live, and the Lord continued to provide for us. The Lord continued to provide for us, and He will provide for you. So what kind of trial has He got you in right now? That's His best to prepare you for the future, because perilous times are coming. It's going to be very difficult, but we can trust the Lord and walk by faith. And so I just wanted to share one more experience that we just recently went through to get this house that we're living in. And it was tough. I mean, I had to move twice. Okay, I had moved everything into storage units, move everything out. I mean, it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And it took a long time. But you know what? Sometimes faith is like a muscle that has to be exercised. And the Lord was just sending us out in the wilderness to exercise our faith, because we had been in a season of rest. And so I just want to encourage everybody today to trust the Lord and to follow Jesus. Irregardless of what happens, the Lord will never forsake us and leave us. And so that's my message today. God